Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Bachpan Manao Badhte Jao Masterclass. Today we have with us Key Education Foundation, who's going to be hosting the session. Key Education Foundation is a Bangalore-based not-for-profit with the vision to ensure that children in India receive quality early childhood education. We have with us here Shweta and Sneha, who are going to be talking about introducing body safety in the curriculum in the early years. So I'm going to hand over to Shweta and Sneha. Welcome, everyone, and I hope you have an informative and interesting session today.
Thank you, Hita. I'm just going to take a minute to share my screen and we can get started. Please let me know when you're able to see my screen.
Yes, we're able to see your screen. Shweta, you can go ahead.
Perfect. So, hi everyone. I am Shweta from Key Education Foundation. It is so nice to see so many of you who've joined the session on time and have shown an interest or are curious about what body safety means in the classroom. I've been a teacher and then a teacher trainer and a teacher educator. And I think over the years, in the last 10 years, I have often come to the realization that yes, as a teacher, we have to teach our children academic things and build their literacy and numeracy. But our relationship with the children that we teach goes so much beyond that, right? We know that we are responsible for their well-being, for their development, for the confidence that they have when they speak to each other and to others in the society, and most importantly for the people that they become when they go out into society. When we think of our job like that, then it really makes me wonder, what should we be teaching in the classroom? It's definitely not just letters and numbers and reading and writing. So when I was thinking of these things, and when we've been having these conversations at Key Education Foundation, where we work with the littlest learners who are 3 to 6 years old, in the recent years, we started hearing about social and emotional development, which many of you have heard of. And when we thought of social emotional learning, that's also a lot of most of the research and the ideas around SEL have been recent and in the last 5 to 10 years. We also started thinking about how do we build not just confidence about themselves in children, but also confidence in children to start expressing their wants, their likes, their dislikes. Confidence in children to be able to draw boundaries around themselves and to protect themselves and others around them. And we realized in this journey that body safety is an idea in which considerable amount of work has been done globally. And we at Key Education Foundation started recently thinking about how do we bring this into the work that we do and into our curriculum, and how early is too early to teach body safety to children. And that is the journey we are going to share with you today. We're going to tell you, very recently we conducted a pilot and started the effort to bring this into our curriculum and classrooms. We will share with you our experiences from the pilot and some of our learnings so that you will be able to take away some ideas around how you can do this for your classrooms or in your organization. Before we get started, we'll do some quick introductions. So I am the Chief Impact and Strategy Officer at KEF. I'm also the co-founder at Key Education and have studied elementary education and have been an educator for the last 10 years. I'll also let our lead facilitator today, Sneha, introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today with us. So I'm Sneha, and I lead the curriculum development vertical at Key Education Foundation. And I have a background in early childhood development and administration. And within 8 years, being an educator and also a trainer. So I really love doing what I'm doing right now. And so I'm happy to have you all and have this conversation with you all today.
Thank you, Sneha. So just before we get started, let me very briefly tell you about Key Education Foundation, since some of you are new here, as I can see, and may not be familiar with our work. So at KEF, we are based in Bangalore, but we work across multiple classrooms across the state, focused on three things. We look at quality early childhood education for 3 to 6 year old children. So that is what are children learning in pre-KG, LKG, and UKG before they enter grade 1. And we do this in by addressing three major areas. One is the classroom environment. How do you bring play back to the classroom? How do you ensure there are teaching learning materials, and every aspect of everything that children do is centered in play and centered around the child. The two major adults who are responsible for this are those who we work with, which is the teachers as well as the parents. So we do a lot of work in the area of teacher training in both online and in-person modes. And we do teacher coaching by going into classrooms and supporting teachers as well. And the last but equally important in the three is our work with parents. So with parents, we do a lot of awareness building around what early childhood development means, how they can engage the children at home, even when they have really busy lives. And we do this by giving them weekly activities through technology, as well as conducting workshops in schools. And our true belief is only when you bring the three pieces together, the curriculum, the teacher, and the parent, and when they all are working together and in unison with each other, are we able to say that our children achieve age-appropriate outcomes. We are an organization that has been working for the last 6 years, and we currently have impacted more than 100,000 children, their parents, and over 3,000 teachers. And our solutions in curriculum, teacher training, and parent engagement are currently being implemented in 3 states in India, which is Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, and Nagaland. So this, in short, is about what we do and where all of our work is implemented and what context it is informed by. But I know we're all here for body safety, so let's jump right into that. So just before we get into sharing about our pilot, we'd like to get to know what you are all expecting from today, right? And what is the knowledge you already bring about body safety. So let's do a really quick activity. I would like you to think, I'm sure all of you have something in your mind when you hear the term body safety. So I would like you to think about what words or in a short sentence, what comes to your mind when we say body safety. And I would like you to type those words into a link that is being shared in the chat. When you click on the link, it will take you to another page and you can type in the words that are coming to your mind. You can also access that page by scanning this QR code. Feel free to access it in whichever way is easy for you. It'll take you to a Mentimeter page and you can enter what comes to your mind when you think of body safety. So I'll give everybody a minute. If you have any challenge accessing it, please feel free to let us know. So as you all enter, I'm going to keep sharing some of the responses that are coming from all of you on my screen. Understanding our body, unsafe touch, safe environments, shame. Let's give it 30 more seconds. Please continue to enter your responses. Okay, great. So it looks like we have some responses, and it's very interesting to see that there are words like trust that have come up, right? So today we are going to be talking about trust, trusted people, who are the safe people for our children. What does shame have to do with talking about body safety? And most importantly, body safety beginning with understanding our own bodies for us and our ability to be able to build that understanding in our children. So I'm very excited to see that most of you have come in with an understanding of body safety, so we can get into more details when we continue with the session today. So thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to switch back to our presentation for today. And tell you a little more about it, right? So thank you so much for sharing, and it really helps us to understand where you are coming from, what your understanding and expectations are. And much like that, building upon what you already know, today we will, one, understand the term body safety a little bit more. What are all the things involved when we say body safety for young children? The criticality of teaching body safety. That basically means, is it important for us to teach body safety today? If so, why? We will definitely draw a lot from the pilot that KEF conducted on body safety, and we'll share with you about the learnings from the pilot. And we also have Nagmani ma'am today with us, who will be speaking a little bit later in the session on her experience of implementing this. And finally, we will get into, when we say body safety, what should children be learning and how should we be doing that in the classroom? So let's start off with the criticality of body safety, right? Do we need body safety awareness in India? And for that, let's take the next 2 to 3 minutes to see how much we know about what body safety addresses, which is fundamentally child sexual abuse, right? Many of you would have heard the term CSA, which is really saying, if the premise is body safety is meant to address issues around child sexual abuse, so it's first important for us to understand the problem. And for that, we have 3 questions for you, and I would like you to read each question. And if you are comfortable, please put your responses to these in the chat. Yeah. So who experiences more abuse as children in India? And when I say children, I'm referring to anyone who's below the age of 18. Do you think it's girls or boys? And I request you to put your response in the chat. Thank you so much. I can see a lot of responses coming in. Thank you, Archana, Sakshi, Babita. Okay, so we've got an overwhelming number of responses that actually say both. And we've got some of us who say girls. Often when it comes to child sexual abuse or sexual abuse in general, we actually end up, there is an assumption that girls are more abused. And it is true that when we look at the numbers, an All India survey tells us that 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 6 boys are likely to go through some form of sexual abuse before they turn 18. So India has a long way to go in terms of safety. And it is true that our boy children and girl children, especially when they're youngest, are equally at risk. And thank you so much. That is great to see that most of you are aware that we are not only talking about safety for girls here, we're talking about safety for all children, irrespective of their gender, because the problem is definitely concerning both of the girls as well as the boys in the early years. Let me ask you the second question that we have. Most perpetrators of sexual abuse are strangers, right? We often talk about, now the question here is, if children are being abused, is it only and often done by strangers, true or false? So this is a big difference, right? I can see a lot of responses coming in. Thank you for being a very engaged audience. much like many of you are sharing, this is a big difference, specifically when we talk about the early years, right? When you look at sexual abuse for older people and adults, we often see a lot more stranger danger coming in. But when it comes to young children, an overwhelming amount, almost 90% of perpetrators are people who are known to children. And it is often because we teach our children about stranger danger, but we don't teach children about safety and confidence to be able to stand up to people that they already know. Last question for today. During the COVID pandemic that we had in 2020, Childline India set up a helpline. And they said if there are any issues around child sexual abuse, you can call this helpline. And in the first 11 days of the lockdown, they received a lot of phone calls reporting abuse. How many calls do you think they received? You can just type the number 1, 2, or 3 to choose your option. 10,000, 30,000, or more than 50,000. What do you think? Okay, I'm getting a mix of responses on the chat. Okay, great. So I'm going to go a little bit faster. So in the first 11 days across Indian states, they received 92,000 phone calls. We have almost 100,000 children during the pandemic that faced sexual abuse and struggled to report it and were trying to call the child helpline. The reason we are presenting you this data is not to create stress or not to say our country is not doing anything, right? In a country as diverse and as complex as India, the idea of addressing child sexual abuse is urgent, but it is also a very new idea. And as educators, it is our responsibility to join this movement and support our children by prioritizing body safety awareness, not just for our children, but building this knowledge in us as well. So hopefully with this data, you are also able to use it in your own context and have a conversation about body safety. Now, when we started designing for body safety and talking about bringing it in at KEF, we also wanted to understand if we all realize, like when I saw your responses in the chat, most of us realize that this is important and that we need to be talking about it and that it begins with having conversations about it. So then why are we not able to do it? What are some barriers to building body safety awareness? When we ask this question, there are 4 main barriers that we identified that I would like to tell you about a little bit. One, I'm sure most of us have faced this, which is this topic. The minute we talk about body safety, there is a mindset that this has to do only with sex education, right? There is often a mindset saying, okay, body safety means we need to talk about sexual awareness and sex education, and that is not for young children. That is not meant to be spoken in front of our mothers and fathers and our families. And we shouldn't be telling young children about this because we are corrupting their mind, right? And there is a general taboo around this. And because of that, combined with this fear of exposing our children, saying, oh, our children are too young, their minds are pure, their minds are innocent. When these mindsets prevail, it's important for us to talk about, one, expanding our understanding of body safety. The reason we are calling this a taboo or we are afraid of it could also be because most of us know it's important, but we don't have the knowledge. We don't know the language of how much to talk to young children. What do I talk to a 3-year-old? What do I talk to an 8-year-old? What knowledge is it okay for me to share and how? So these are all issues that we find are barriers. While many people acknowledge that it is important, they are unable to cross these barriers and actually talk about it. And lastly, an issue that is faced, especially when it comes to addressing issues around body safety, is the issue of misplaced trust. What does misplaced trust mean? It means we end up saying, okay, this person is the uncle of the child, or this person is the teacher, or I have put my child in a school, that means the school is going to be responsible and is a safe space. And we tell our children that these people are safe, so you can't complain about them. We make a lot of assumptions around what we can trust and what we cannot trust, instead of deciding what really are those behaviors that we should be trusting. And because of this misplaced trust, combined with the lack of our knowledge, we end up being too afraid or too uncomfortable to talk about body safety awareness. And today, when we are going to be presenting to you in the next section what to do with body safety, it's very important for us to be able to overcome these barriers, remind ourselves that we need to get beyond this fear and build our knowledge base so that we can address body safety for children. Finally, we've spoken about the problem, we've spoken about the barriers. The positive thing here is there is a lot of global research which tells us that if we teach body safety to children, it actually has a direct impact on three things for our children. One, it enhances emotional and social well-being. That means children who engage in conversations, healthy conversations around their body, have better emotional and social well-being. They are more confident. Research globally also tells us that children are able to therefore report incidents, and there are multiple studies. You will read more about it when we share our report with you, which says if a perpetrator knows that a child is capable of speaking up, even if they are likely to commit abuse, they will not do it. When perpetrators of sexual violence were interviewed, they actually said that they choose only people who are less aware. So when studies are showing you that awareness is improving, confidence is improving, it naturally also leads to a reduction in the incidence of abuse itself. So there is a lot of advantages to us thinking about urgently including body safety in our classrooms and in our teaching practices. Before I hand over, I will be handing over to Sneha now to take you through our pilot. I would like you all to take a moment to read the definition of body safety. When we say body safety education, like I said, it goes far beyond sex education for children. For young children, I would like you to take a moment, read what is on the slide, and process everything that we've shared till now. If you have any thoughts, please feel free to put it in the chat in the next 30 seconds. And post this, we will move on to the next section where we share about our pilot. Great. So, Sneha, can I hand over to you to pick this up?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Shweta. So again, now that we've understood about why talking about it is important and why prioritizing body safety awareness for us and our children is important, we will take you through the journey that KEF went through with another organization who works specifically towards building awareness about body safety, about body literacy with children and with adults. I'll just talk you through the journey that we did. But before going there, I would just like to, when I was planning for this presentation, something when we got trained at KEF, we also institutionalized the child protection policy very recently. And when we were doing the study about it and what the policy will have, what it should have, or what will be the roles and responsibilities when one sort of signs the consent form. And when we got trained about the child protection and what child rights are, it became so important for us also to understand why introducing or talking about body safety discussions much earlier in life. Like basically a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old will be at they will have that capacity to even understand. I think one example I would want to share that really stuck with me from that training is basically there was this incident that happened where there was this girl. I'm not sure of the age, but very early. Her parents started introducing about the private parts to her as something else. It was not the exact names that they were given to these private parts. So, for example, I think she was introduced to one of her private parts as flower. And then when somebody acted differently with her body, and she felt uncomfortable, and she came back and told her parents that somebody is not behaving very well with me, and they're touching my flower. And the parents were like, okay, it's fine. They didn't realize that they had taught that flower is equivalent to something else. But they were like, it's okay, you can share your flower with your uncle, or whoever it was. And she went ahead, and she did not know the vocabulary, or she was not emotionally ready to even talk about it with others, because she was not aware of what was happening. She didn't have the right vocabulary to help her prevent what was called the unacceptable behavior, right? Then when she learned about all of this in her school, she was able to understand, and she was able to recognize the abuse, and then talk about it and get help. So I think this was really important when I understood. And now I also have a small daughter, and she's 2 years old now. And when I'm talking to her about everyday things and private actions, public actions, every day I'm thinking about how innovatively can I introduce talking about all of these things, and still ensuring that she understands this, so that she can empower herself and she can protect herself, if not for us being with her always. So like I said, we saw that there was a program from Circles of Safety called the Safer Smarter Kids as an essential tool for integrating child safety into our curriculum. And we hopped onto this journey of we should introduce this in our classes, because like Shweta said, we are working with children from 3 to 6 year olds, and this was the right time that we got to talk about this. So now moving quickly into what we did in the pilot, the objectives of the pilot, what we focused in the pilot was basically what should the curriculum look like, and how easy is it to integrate into a routine, because we already have a routine going with our children, and this was something new that we are going to introduce, but we didn't want it to be very starkly different from what they are already learning. So we thought about what can be done, and we had a circle time routine that was already introduced to children. And we said, why don't we integrate the body safety curriculum into the circle time routine? And that's how we sort of integrated into the existing routine. And when we were talking about the curriculum, then we thought about what should we train the teachers on, and how should this training be like, because this may not be any other training that we usually do. So this was one of the major objectives that we thought about when we were thinking about this pilot itself. And another question that we had was, are school leaders, teachers, and parents ready to do this? Of course, this pilot was conducted only with a certain amount of schools, and you will see the results. But when we are talking about it, when I'm talking to you also about all of you, with you all, are you also thinking about, am I ready? Am I ready to do this? Am I ready to talk to my children, my teachers about this? That's a question that we kept going back to when we were designing this pilot. And another important question was, now everybody has in mind, like whether young children are capable of gaining this knowledge and applying it. That's also some question that's the question that we had when we were designing the pilot. So again, you'll see where we reached once we completed the pilot on this question. So yeah, we can go to the next slide. So going question by question, now what does body safety look like in the curriculum? When we partnered with Circles of Safety, we understood that introducing body safety is much like introducing anything else to children. It's very easy. It's very easily integratable into the existing curriculum, like I said, and it has a lot of images, resources. The activities can be fun. There are a lot of things, videos, songs that children can sing with, play with, hands-on activities like you can see here displayed on the screen. There are images to talk about what are some of the private actions, public actions, what are some safe scenarios and unsafe scenarios. So these were all the images that we used with our children. And we can go to another example of an activity that we did with children to talk about private parts. So these were some of the steps that we followed. We introduced it as anything that they are used to it, like a simple morning circle time routine. Then they sang a song that was head, shoulders, knees, and toes, which most of our children are familiar with. Now, using that song or the rhyme that they are used to, we also started talking about what else can we talk about when it comes to our body parts. Now, if you look at this in the picture, we are talking about mouth, chest, area between legs. We may certainly not or necessarily not introduce the exact names of the parts, but we can try and teach them about what comes between the legs, what are the body parts that are behind you that you can't see most of the time. So all of these things, it was very simple. We showed posters, we played a game, we played it through a doll, had a movement activity so that, it was very easy for us to introduce these activities with children. We'll just watch a video now in the next slide about an activity that was done with our children to talk about trusted adults. We can play this. We can't hear the audio. Shweta, you're on mute.
Sorry, just give me a second.
Better?
I think we can pause. I'll just summarize what we did in this activity. Sorry, I think the video is not very clear and the voice also, because this was in a classroom and the teacher was trying to do the activity while taking the video. So basically, this was an activity where children were expected to use their palm. If you could see in the video, they're trying to trace their palm and trying to, trace to show who are some of the, trusted adults. Basically, they'll draw their palm and in each finger, they'll start writing who are some of the adults that they can go to when they need help or when they are not feeling comfortable or when they are struggling with something. So they usually write mom, dad, teacher, whoever. So we try and get them to recognize the people that they trust most often, that they can go back to if they have some sort of an issue or some trouble that they're going through. So like you saw, that it's all fun activities that we get children to do and not necessarily use the very heavy words that we usually use when adults are talking. Yeah, we can go to the next activity. And this was another activity that we did with children. That's called the rainbow fish activity. Yeah. I think we can play the video, but the video may not be very clear, but you can just see what it is and I can summarize it for all of you.
Yes. What you're calling? Which fish is this? Which fish is this? Rainbow fish. It's like rainbow fish is a beautiful and colorful fish. It has a beautiful, what is there on its body? Okay, what it has? Very good.
Yeah, so this was an activity about a rainbow fish. It is a very nice story about a unique fish which has very shiny scales and it looks very different from the other fish. So so basically the activity or the story was introduced to talk about how each of us are unique and each of us have our own features that is very unique to us, and not everybody may be the same. So introducing these things and then getting into another extended activity to talk about how safe touch and unsafe touch is going to be important. So again, these were some of the activities that we did. We can show the next slide also, Shweta. Here, this was a friendship activity that we introduced to children. Basically, we categorized the tastes that children are very familiar with, like into sweet and sour taste. And we asked children, what does it look like? If you can see, the teacher is feeding something to the child to check whether it tastes sweet or does it taste sour. So basically, this was an analogy that was used to talk about different actions, behaviors that make our friendship sweet or make our friendship sour. What are some of the sour behaviors that we don't like or that will make our friendship weak? So introducing, and this was this left side activity that you can see with petals, and it's written as our friendship flower. This was all given to children to do, write down their names and put it all together. So it was a whole class activity, and some worksheets were given to the child to do. So introducing familiar concepts and then taking them to the concept of how can you talk about body safety, or how can you be aware about body literacy, was something that we did. So going from concepts that are children familiar with to concepts that children are not very familiar with, or abstract concepts. So that's how we sort of transitioned into getting the curriculum implement in the classrooms. Now that we understood about what the curriculum should look like and how fun it can be, we also looked at how or what should the training teachers for teachers be like. So first of all, we understood that in the spaces that we were creating or implementing this pilot, we understood that most of the time teachers may not have introduced this topic or spoken about this topic to the children or with parents or with their school leaders. So it was important for us to create a safe space for themselves and for their children. For example, in the teacher training, when we were introducing this topic, first, I think for about 2-3 hours, we took time to just talk about what do they think about child sexual abuse or abuse itself, for that matter, and have they faced anything, or have they come across having these discussions with their children or anybody else. And we understood that most of the time they were not able to open up. And because we were all familiar people that we were with the teachers, they were still able to, with that little bit of nudge, they were able to say, yes, ma'am, this happened with us, or my daughter came and spoke to me about this, but I didn't know how to answer. Now that I have the knowledge, I am able to go and answer. So all of this happened, and the familiarity is also something that is important when we are talking to our children or the teachers about it. Now, understanding the context of child sexual abuse in India was also important for our teachers, so that they are also invested in this pilot as much as we were invested in it. So like you saw the statistics, we also presented these statistics to our teachers, and we showed them why it is important to introduce this now. It is like we say, right? It's better late than never. So we did that, and we saw that they also understood the importance of it. And then they were ready to do the pilot in their classrooms or implement the curriculum in their classrooms. And also understanding the scope of body literacy. Like Shweta was talking about earlier, it's not just about when we're talking about safety or child safety, it's not about sex education. It's much more than that. What else are we talking about when we say body literacy? There are a few more videos that I would want to show you later on. It'll clearly define what it means when we say body literacy. And then what were some of the strategies to educate students on body literacy on an ongoing basis? Now, this was a pilot that we conducted only for 4 weeks. But after this, we also heard back from teachers saying that, ma'am, children were coming back to me and asking, ma'am, you spoke to me about rainbow fish story. Can you repeat that? Now, what did rainbow fish story say? Like, it was talking about friendships, or it was talking about uniqueness. And they were also talking about, ma'am, there was an action that I was doing, which is a private action. But, my friend was coming and watching me while I was in the toilet. Those are the things that children came back and they started talking to teachers about, which was really good because it stuck with children even after the pilot. Like I think 2 months in after the pilot, they started doing all of this. Parents started coming back and talking to the teachers about how can we introduce this topic in at home, because children are again susceptible to all of these topics, and they're going everywhere. They need to understand the body literacy. So that's why we wanted to teach them about different strategies to educate students, not just with those lesson plans that they have, but otherwise also during their daily conversations. And finally, we sort of got them to look at the lesson plans, resources that are required. And they were, we did it through demonstrations. We made them children. We started asking them questions. So it was very interactive, so that they also understood what can be done during the training. I think we can look at some of the pictures and feedback sessions from the training. Yeah, so this was just a demo that we were doing with teachers. This was a circle time activity that we did with teachers, and we were showing them flashcards, asking them, what do you think? Like from this image, do you think this is a public action or a private action? Or do you think, this is a safe scenario or an unsafe scenario? So this is how we sort of taught them, for them to understand first and then being able to implement it in their classrooms. And we can go to the next slide. So here, you may not be able to clearly read it, but just showing that we had WhatsApp groups to continuously keep monitoring what teachers were doing on daily basis, weekly basis, because this was a 4-week pilot that we did. Every day we ask questions to teachers. We ask questions like, were you able to conduct today's plan? How comfortable were you in implementing this plan? Can you highlight what worked well? All of these things. So you can see that they've shared images, they have some voice notes that have been shared, and we have been giving them things about what else can be done. I think there was one question here asking, why is stomach not a private part? Sometimes it is revealed, sometimes it's not revealed. This was one of the questions. I think one more example I can share from my visit to a school was, this child was asking, ma'am, if this person comes and gives me chocolate and I will refuse, I will say, I don't want to take chocolate from you. But then he gets angry and he does, he's insisting me to take a chocolate from him. But now, how am I going to respond to him? This was a question from the child. And the teacher, she also was not prepared to answer this. And she was asking, how can we answer this? That made her think a little more deeply. She said at that point, she said, I will think about this and come back to you, because she didn't know an exact answer to give immediately. But do you see where it's taking the children? Like, are they getting this knowledge and they're able to think of different situations that has happened or that may happen, and come back and ask the teachers about what can we do, or can you tell me what needs to be done when something like this happens? So I think we saw a lot of value in having these discussions with our teachers and children, throughout these 4 weeks. Then I think we can go to the next slide. This was just so Anuja, who's the Circles of Safety founder, towards your left corner. So she had a discussion with teachers, and they were really happy to have this implemented. They were worried that it is only for 4 weeks. It didn't last for a long time, and they wanted to do this for a longer duration. So they were requesting for us to give them more resources so that they can continue talking about body safety with their children as well as the parents. Now, before we talk about the other things, we have, like Shweta was talking about, we have Nagmani ma'am from New Indian Public School, which was one of a school where we piloted this curriculum in. So she's come here. She wants to share her experience from the pilot itself. So I will hand it over to Shweta, and I would like Nagmani ma'am to unmute.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi, Nagmani ma'am. How are
Hello,
you?
ma'am. Yeah, I'm fine, ma'am.
I'm
Thank you,
so happy
Shweta.
that you're here today and you're able to share the responses or
Yes, ma'am.
your experience with all of us. So yeah, over to you, Shweta. You can just have this conversation with Nagmani ma'am.
Perfect. Thanks, Neha. Hi, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I think we have a lot of other teachers, some of them familiar to you, some new teachers in our audience today.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So we are hoping that in the next 3-4 minutes, we can just get your direct experience. I know Sneha has shared summarized view of how it went with other teachers and schools. But we thought I could ask you a few questions to get your honest opinion as somebody who was one of the few teachers and early adopters of this trial and pilot that we were trying to do. So we wanted your honest opinion on how it went, some of the positives, some of the challenges that you faced. So I'll just
Yes.
ask you a couple of questions, if that is okay, and you can feel free to answer them one by one. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am.
So I was just curious, was this the first time you were taking body safety to your classroom, or have you done it before in any
No,
way?
no, ma'am. Before this training or before this pilot, I had never spoken. I never thought also about this abuse and all. So this was my first experience, and I got an opportunity to do this in my classroom as well after this training.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's fairly recent. I think for most of us, including me, when we get introduced to it, it comes as something very new, and we wonder, how did I not think about this before?
Yes,
So
ma'am. Definitely.
So thanks for sharing. I was curious, ma'am, also how, like, basically, how was before you took it to class, you attended a detailed training that Sneha spoke about. How was the experience of the training for you? Was there anything new that you learned? What stood out to you?
Yes, ma'am. The training was very good, and I just learned lots about. I got more information about it, and the training was. Before the training, I didn't know how to speak up with the children, how to converse with the children about the topic in the students in my class. So after this training, I just when I was attending the training, I just had an confident. Yeah, even I can do. Yes, I have to do. I have to educate my children. So the concept was only according to the body safety. Every child needs the education of this month. So the training was very good, and it was clearly to understand first ourselves. Then after that, we can just educate the children. So that was very good, and training had also given the lesson plans. So due to this lesson plans, not everything at once we can't just explain the children. So we have to go according to their level, and we have to think what we have to share, what the words we have to use for the children to make them understand. So the lesson plan was very clear, and we just followed the lesson plan. What you had given the resources for us. So even all those resources were very useful, ma'am. According to the lesson plan, the resources were also matching, and children were able to understand clearly with the resources also.
Oh, that is very heartening to hear. I think for us also to be able to take this to more schools, and for some of the people here who have joined us today. I'm curious. So you spoke about the resources and the lesson plans, right? So
Yes, ma'am.
any particular activity you remember? How did it go in the classroom? Any challenges or incidents that you remember with the children?
Yes, ma'am. For the day one plan, I myself, I was just not
Sorry,
how
was I
to
not
share.
audible?
I was feeling very scared. Ma'am, I am audible now? I'm audible
Yeah,
now?
you are. Yes, please go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah, ma'am. Day one plan was very excited, and I was just thinking how to explain. I had confidence, but I don't know how far it will reach for the children. So I myself, I was feeling shy to open up with the children. Then using the hand puppet, like a hand puppet in the sense, one doll I had kept ready before the class started. And I was just showing I just explained, and what is this? So till then, the children were very happy to see the girl toy. So after, when I just started explaining the private parts of the children, and when I just told the area between the legs, the children were not ready to take the doll also. They feel that something is wrong, or whether it's correct, what ma'am is speaking is correct or not. Then I just told, no, it is very important to know you also. So these are our private parts, and what to do in the publics and what to do with the private. So slowly they just started understanding. Then they just showed the private part of the doll also. So the words were very clear and they used to understand the concept as well, ma'am.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. I know it can feel sometimes even children have heard from other people, right, that you should not talk about these things. So it's not just us
Yeah.
who are shy. Sometimes even our youngest children come with those taboos,
Yeah,
and
ma'am.
it's a little, it can be scary, but I'm glad that you were able to at least overcome that barrier and move forward. Anything that, I'm now when you started talking about this, I know the pilot was only 4 weeks. Did you hear anything from the parents? Did children go home and tell parents about this? Did parents come and ask you anything?
Yes, definitely, ma'am. The very next day itself, my children shared that, ma'am, I went home. I told my mom that, ma'am taught me like this private parts and all. Then I think one of my child, she discussed that. She told that, ma'am, I told my father not to come when I'm changing dress. So that is understood that it has reached the children and they know what is right and what is wrong. And parents were also very happy when we had conducted orientation program. So parents they also shared that it's very good topic. What you are doing is very good. And you just please give a separate orientation about this body safety. We know that as we were, even I am a parent, but I didn't open up with my kid also. So after this training in leave, even I just what happened in the training, I just shared with my children also, like my children and school also. Parents were very happy, ma'am. There was nothing like that. You need to educate. Yes, what you are doing is very good. So please continue. And you teachers are the correct one to guide the children, to make them understand what's good and what's bad, like safe and unsafe touch. All these were responses from the parent, ma'am.
Oh, that's very interesting. Did you expect any parents to come and, tell you you should not be doing this or anything like that?
No, starting I was just thinking, how will be the parent response? But all the responses were very good, ma'am.
Oh, that is great to hear. I think for a lot of us who are teachers here who may be a little worried about this, right? Even at KEF ourselves, we were very slow in implementing this. Today, when Sneha and I discuss about it, our worry was, our school's ready, like Sneha was saying, or our parents ready. But this is great to hear that I guess parents are ready, and sometimes we are all just too worried.
Yes, ma'am.
And are not taking there to see
but
how
all
it
the
goes.
parents' response was very good, and they just suggested that you give a separate orientation about the body safety and how we have to reach to the children also.
Oh, that is really helpful to know. But that's great. That's great. Thank you so much, Nagmani ma'am. Just in the interest of time, I'm going to pause here. But just before we close, is there anything you would like to share with other teachers who may be thinking, who are in the audience today, who may be thinking about doing this in their classrooms?
No, it is very good to have, ma'am. Like starting, we'll feel, whether can I do, or it will be very effective or not. So definitely, what you have given the resources, lesson plans is definitely worthful, and we can go accordingly that, and we can very easily reach the children what the actually concept is, and not only about the body safety, self-confidence will improve for the children also. Like whom they have to trust, whom they have to share their thoughts or any problem. They shouldn't hide themselves. They have to open up with anyone those the children will trust. So these are the really good pilot what I had attended. And lastly I wanted to tell is, like, every child should get the education of their body safety. So that's what you have done. That is really good. Before the pilot, even I didn't know all this. So thank you for giving me an opportunity for this. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Nagmani ma'am. This is just the beginning of the journey. As we build out more, hopefully with a lot more partners, we'll be able to bring you more information on body safety as well. But thank you so much for supporting and taking the classroom as well.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
So I know we have a couple of minutes left, folks. We may take about another 5-6 minutes and we stretch a little post 6 o'clock. Thank you, Sharda, for saying you are referring to POXO videos. So a lot of our content is developed based on POXO as well. And would love to hear more. Yes,
Thank you, ma'am. Actually, we are doing from grade 1 to 8 standard value education. The 1 month we completed this month, honest, we took the topic. And the 4th week, we will do only the bad touch and good touch, the children, and we will show only for the videos. The children, they are very smart, they are understanding. It is really useful. When we are small, no one taught us. This is now the year, no, they have to be ready to face the world. So
Yeah,
this is
so
really good. Yes,
thank
now we are doing only, not daily, monthly once we are giving awareness. Only one period, only 10 minutes, ma'am, not more than that. Because it is only, they should not be in the same dream world. So only one 5 to 10 minutes we'll make them. And again, we'll come back to the topic and they will forget, but they're very serious. Yes, ma'am, we will be very clear. We will never allow them to touch anyone. They are giving the promise. Thank you so much. Nice session this was.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. I will hand over to Sneha to share the last bit, and I can see Kalyani has also shared summary. So thank you for being an engaged audience, folks. We will close out in the next 5 to 6 minutes. Yeah. I'll just go back to sharing. Sneha, please
Yes.
take.
Just slide 27. All right, now that we've heard, from Nagmani ma'am on why this is important and how children are capable of learning, we just wanted to again reiterate that our children will be able to apply this in their, with their existing knowledge through some simple activities. Like I said, this hands activity that we talk about, to get them to name 3 people or 5 people that they really trust that they can go back to. And also when we're talking about a family tree, who and all would you include by giving them these images? This is another activity that we did with children as a part of a survey that we conducted towards the end of the pilot. We found really good answers. I will show you those results in the next few slides. But before that, let's watch this video. It's a longer video. We'll only watch about 2 minutes. And we will share this video with you later on, and you can watch the full video as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So a few years ago, my mom's over at our house for a family event. And she's in the back with my oldest son, Grady, who was 5 at the time. She comes walking in the kitchen, laughing and shaking her head. I said, "What happened?" She said, "Only your kid. Grady kicked me out of the bathroom." I said, "Why?" He said, "Nana, I have to potty. Get out. You can't see my penis." Now, I hope by the end of this talk that our faces stop turning as red as this dot that I'm standing on whenever I say the words penis and vagina. You see, I'm a counselor trained in trauma and sex addiction, but I'm also a sexual trauma survivor. So this is not the first time that my mom and I have had this uncomfortable parenting conversation. So she looked at me and she said, "Why do you say that?" I wasn't doing anything. I was just doing my hair. I wasn't even looking. I would never harm him. I said, "I know, Mom, but he knows his boundaries and how to set them. You might be safe, but I want him to know what to do when he's not safe and to feel confident." My wife and I have 2 boys. So we have what's called the penis rules at our house. They know who can touch them, who can see them naked, and when and where this is appropriate. I did not learn these lessons when I grew up, and years of heartache followed. I believe that a child who does not learn these rules is unintentionally neglected. Tonight, I want you to learn this word, sexual neglect. Now, when you hear sexual neglect, you may think it means a child's not getting enough sexual engagement, but I mean quite the opposite. My definition for childhood sexual neglect is a child that grows up without age-appropriate and healthy conversations about sexual development, private parts, consent, and body safety. Now, our world doesn't feel comfortable talking about these things, but we've got to get used to it. The ACEs study give us 5.
Okay. So basically, I hope all of you were able to hear what he said for the first 2 minutes. I think he's also again reiterating with an example about why introducing these terms or body safety awareness much early on is important to avoid any uncomfortable situations or any kind of abuse that children will go through, so that they have the correct knowledge or the correct vocabulary that they can come back to and talk about it when something happens. Now we can go to the next slide, and we will quickly talk about what does a young child in pre-primary need to know when we talk about body safety awareness, because there are so many things like we were talking about, right? It's not just sex education, but there are so many things. And I would like to just pull out 5 points, major points that we can, or top takeaways that we can take to our children. One is about my body, my rules, teaching young children that they have control over their own bodies, and the right to say no is very important. And to set these boundaries about who can touch them, who can not touch them, like he was talking about in the video also, that they have rules with their children and they understand these rules. So empowering children to understand this will be really helpful and will create the safety space for them. We can go to the next one. And then, talking about safe and unsafe touch. I think most often they're not like, we keep introducing good touch and bad touch because, we, instead of good touch and bad touch, we would prefer talking it as safe and unsafe touch. Because when children are being taught about safe and unsafe touch, they will understand, this without, say, for example, if their uncle comes and does like a small pat or, that will still feel as a good touch, but for them inside, they will feel a little differently and they may not be comfortable about it. So when we start teaching to them about the words safe and unsafe, the terms safe and unsafe, they will not feel guilty when they are able to report back saying, this happened and I'm not comfortable about it. So having these discussions and talking about having secrets, healthy secrets, unhealthy secrets. So, teaching them about what can be a secret that needs to be shared with the closest circle and what can be a secret that can just be ignored, like saying about a birthday present is still an okay secret to keep to themselves, but not about an unsafe touch. So these are some of the things that we need to start talking to our children about, and also understanding who our safe people are. Now, I think we've been talking about that palm activity that we do with children. So doing that activity, trying to get them to identify who their immediate safe people are is going to be really important. Now, the next one can be stranger danger. I think we also saw a statistics about this, how most of the time the person who will cause harm may not be a stranger for that matter. 90% of the time, these things happen from the closest family of the child. So it's important for them to understand, the terms very clearly so that they'll be able to talk about it later. And also understanding about body literacy. So it's important for children to understand the proper names of their body parts, especially private parts. Like the example that I gave you when we began speaking about this, right? Like flower is not equivalent to like another private part. So, we should be comfortable to speak about these and speak about this loudly and in front of everybody, so that children are also aware about it and they also start talking about this when something happens. So these are the 5 major takeaways or top takeaways that we would like to share, that children need to understand when we're talking about body safety. We can go to the next slide, and here is where I want to show you from the student survey that we did, what was the impact or what stuck with children. Like I think Nagmani ma'am also was sharing, right? There was this one place where the child said, "Daddy, please don't come to my room because when I'm changing, it's not safe, or you can't be inside the room." And like I said, this pilot was only for a short duration of 4 weeks, and we were not able to achieve everything, or we were not able to implement everything. So in terms of these two pie charts where you see that children were able to think about a unique quality specific to them and name that. And also when we were talking about helpline number, if they are able to look at something, or if they see some incident happening, are they able to go and call this helpline number? These were some of the things that we taught children and saw if they're able to recall these things, but not all of them were able to recall, and they take time, but that's okay. But it's important for us to start introducing it much early on. So I think by saying this, this is how much that I wanted to talk about the pilot and the journey that we have been through all this while. Now, as a way forward, we want you to come join us in this journey, and we want to build a framework and content, and develop a teacher training material, or develop content for parents. So all of these are some things that we want to develop towards body safety, and to introduce this to our children, not just for 4 weeks, but more than that, throughout their academic year, is something we want to have these conversations continuously, so that it sticks on. So we would like for you to join us, and let us know if you would really be happy to be a part of this journey. We will share a Google form with you right now in the chat. If you can take 5 minutes, it's going to be a really short Google form. If you can take 5 minutes to fill this up, we'll be able to get back to you with more details, or how do we want to take this further is something that we'll reach out to you when we have your contact information. And we also have some resources and reports from the pilot itself that we will share via email. We can also share the deck with you. All the resources that we have available will be made available to you as well. So I would like you to take some time now to fill this form that's just put up in the chat.
Yes, so that brings us to the end of the session, folks. We've gone a little bit over time, but I'd request if you all can fill the form, and if you have any questions, feel free to unmute and ask. And contact details of Key Education are up if you want to write to us. And we'll definitely reach out to you if you have filled the form and entered your details within the next week to 10 days. If you would like to directly reach out to Circles of Safety and explore their Safer, Smarter Schools program, her details, Anuja's details are also put up here for your reference.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We'll stay on for a couple of minutes while everyone's filling in the forms. Thank you, everyone, so much for being such an engaged audience. It was absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Shweta. Thank you, Sneha, for bringing the session to Bachpan Manao Badhte Jao Masterclass. I hope you all have a lovely evening, and I hope to see you at the next masterclass. Thank you.
Thanks, Hita. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you, ma'am.
I see there are a few people on the call on the link. So maybe we'll wait for 1 more minute while they're filling in the form. I don't want to kind of spoil that.
Sure.
In any case, Shweta, would you be sharing all the resources to everybody who registered as well?
So I think the Bachpan Manao follow-up email will have the pilot report as well as a handout which has what the children should learn and links to various resources they can use, I think. Right, Sneha?
Yes.
Lovely.
When does this mail go out usually?
So we can send that as soon as possible. Once you share across all the details, we'll send that out.
Perfect.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening. Thank you, guys. Shweta, Sneha, lovely.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.